Welcome to Doug in Exile. I guess Joe Biden regrets hiring Merrick Garland and believes he would have beat Trump in the election if he stayed in the game. That article's over at The Guardian. Welcome to Doug in Exile. This is where the happy patriots are. Don't forget to like and subscribe and do the thing. The Guardian just released Biden reportedly regrets ending re-election campaign and says he'd have defeated Trump. Tell me right now in the comments below, do you believe that's true? Would Biden have beaten Trump if he stayed in the game? President also regrets picking Merrick Garland for Attorney General as he was slow to prosecute Trump for January 6th. He's saying he didn't prosecute him hard enough? Okay, buddy. Joe Biden regrets having pulled out of this year's presidential race and believes he would have defeated Donald Trump in last month's election despite negative poll indications. White House sources have said. See, now that the whole thing is over, now all the real true information, the juicy stuff leaks out. They're safe. Biden can't hurt him now so they can tell the truth. The U.S. president has reportedly also said he made a mistake in choosing Merrick Garland as Attorney General. Well, I'll agree with him on that. Look, I found a place of commonality with Joe Biden, reflecting that Garland, a former U.S. appeals court judge, was slow to prosecute Donald Trump for his role in the J6 January 2021 insurrection, while presiding over a Justice Department that aggressively prosecuted Biden's son, Hunter. So Merrick Garland went too hard after Hunter, who was obviously guilty and had to be excused. What's also weird is, there was a lot of momentum to get Trump in 2021. That was peak anger at Trump by the Democrats and by the American people. That's where the whole insurrection thing probably had the most force. So if they jumped on it instead of slow walked it, they might have gotten Trump. So Biden, again, is probably right there. With just more than 3 weeks of single-term presidency remaining, Biden's reported rueful reflections are revealed in a Washington Post profile that contains the clearest signs yet that he thinks he erred in withdrawing his candidacy in July. After a woeful debate performance against his rival for the White House, Trump, the previous month, the president stepped aside to be replaced as his party's nominee by U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris after mounting pressure from fellow Democrats. Did Biden ever look in the mirror and go, why are all the Democrats against me? What's wrong with me? Or he'd go like, what's wrong with me? For a near certain election drubbing from Trump, that is, Kamala Harris was put in a place to lose to him, who is seeking a historic return to the White House as the Republicans' nominee. I'll add, in the greatest comeback in American history. Thank you, Democrats, for giving us that great gift. Harris's ascent to the top of the ticket led to a surge of enthusiasm and improved poll numbers, but ultimately ended in a decision, electoral college and popular vote defeat. While Biden and his aides have been careful not to blame Kamala Harris, they apparently believe the result would have been different if he had stood his ground, according to the Washington Post's reporting. In its view, disputed by many Harris supporters who blame the president for waiting too long before withdrawing, thus leaving the vice president with little time to mount an effective campaign. So they're saying he stayed in too long. Well, you know what? Democrats, just keep blaming each other. Shoulda, woulda, coulda, hindsight's 2020. They also point out that Biden's determination to seek a second term violated the 2020 campaign vow to be a transitional figure who would pass the torch after one term after steering the country away from Trump's presidency. Now, that was a lie, but he's a politician. When does a politician keep those promises? That he'd only be in for one term. Quote, Biden ran on the promise that he was going to be a transitional president, and in effect, that one term before handing it off to another generation. Richard Blumenthal, a Democratic senator for Connecticut, told the Post. Now, see, this doesn't go into account. Even if Kamala got in the race earlier, the biggest blunders of the Biden campaign would be hung around her neck, that being the border, the bad economy, and we saw what kind of answers she had on the economy. She had no ideas to save it. And then the lawfare against Trump, making him into a felon. That wouldn't have gone away if Kamala got in earlier. So just having her run earlier and exposing us to more of Kamala Harris wouldn't have worked. Quote, I think his running again broke the concept, the conceptual underpinning of the theory that he would end the Trump appeal. He would defeat Trumpism and enable a new era. No, he was not winning that war. He never got above a 50%. In fact, he was down in the 38th percentile when Joe Biden first went into office. He was down low. He never became more popular also through staying in the game. The outgoing president's misgivings over Garland are poignant, given that he announced him as the attorney general nominee the day after a Trump incited mob against the U.S. Capitol on January 6th, 2021, an effort that ultimately failed to overturn Biden's 2021 presidential victory. So he only hired Garland like right away. Boom. Get Trump after J6 2021. At the time, Biden said Garland would restore, quote, the honor, the integrity, the independence of the Justice Department after years of perceived politicization under Trump. Boy, that's a colossal failure. So how did that work? That was Biden's big plan. And where'd that go? Now Biden says he wished he picked someone else because he didn't want Garland to restore the honor, integrity, and independence. Wrong choice, Joe Biden. Quote, your loyalty is not to me, it's to the law, to the Constitution, to the people of this nation, Biden told Merrick Garland at his official unveiling. But according to the Post, Biden had to be persuaded by his chief of staff, Ron Klain, to choose Garland. At the time, best known as Barack Obama's failed choice to succeed the conservative Justice Antonin Scalia on the U.S. Supreme Court before his nomination was derailed by a Republican-led Senate. Remember, that's magic Mitch McConnell. And whew, we dodged a bullet on that one. You could have Merrick Garland as a lifetime appointment of doing to Trump what he's doing right now, and we'll get the boot and go to the unemployment line on January 20th. Biden's political allies had pressed the case for Doug Jones, then a Democratic senator of Alabama, arguing that he would be better equipped to navigate Washington's bitterly partisan atmosphere. Klain instead argued that Garland, reputed for fairness, would send a more reassuring message of Justice Department independence after Trump. Well, you failed on almost all those counts. Let's get the last two paragraphs because we're going to get up to Jack Smith here. The deliberate pace of the investigation, which eventually resulted in the appointment of a special counsel, Jack Smith, meant Trump was ultimately able to avoid the spectacle of a politically damaging trial before this year's elections. That's the first I've heard where Garland should have taken the lead on that, and instead he offloaded it on to a Jack Smith subcontractor. Smith last month formally applied for his two criminal cases against Trump to be wound up in view of his election victory, in effect, ending them. So Trump, that's a massive win for him, massive loss for Joe Biden. I like to see him cry in his soy milk, both Biden and Merrick Garland. Biden is delusional if you thought he would have won Trump, because again, he's the same guy who ran in 2020, but now we had a 4-year record. No way in hey that guy would have beat Trump. I'm Doug in Exile.